Living a Moxie life to me truly means being the fullness of who I am. My name is Courtney Erzkus. I am from Morgantown, West Virginia. I love living in Appalachia. And with Team Moxie, I am also our Director of People and Culture. A huge part of my life is that I am a mama, and so I have 2 kids that I love spending time with. They are so creative and brilliant. Before Moxie Life, my life was reactive. But one thing about me is I have a lot of ideas, and I think they all come out. And so I did a lot of planning and dreaming, but I had a lot of trouble both getting it from like the dream stage into actual action. It's this feeling of like catching up. Like I was paying attention to one thing that was important to me with my goals and my planning, but then it wasn't balanced. It wasn't harmonious. It was very this and then this, and I felt very disjointed in that way. I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. I think stage 2, 2BX, I don't know, letters and numbers. And I was pregnant. And in theory, as people with cancer hate this, but we get told all the time it's the good cancer, right? You have a good odds of having treatment that responds right away. And I think my odds of responding to primary treatment were like 80%, 90%. But I didn't. And that's when I learned that statistics don't matter because you are one person in that. And it helps, it gives us reassurance, but those statistics don't get to determine what our reality is. I was dealing with the diagnosis that happened really fast because I think I was like 17 weeks pregnant at this point. And I knew I was going to have to go right into treatment. And so I was like, how in the world am I going to do chemo while I'm pregnant with a 2-year-old while I'm working full time in a job that keeps me and my husband very separate? And I remember having this realization that I had 3 things and I could only do 2 of them. I had my health, I had my family, and I had my job. And I had never had to explicitly choose. But it was so clear in that moment. I just had time that I had never had before, where I could step back and look at my life and say, okay, I had to make this decision of what I was going to balance. But now the world, like I dropped everything. There was no dream because literally my mindset during that time was, if I die in 5 years, will I be happy with what I've done? And so I was doing on a day-to-day basis things that made me feel like my life mattered in that time because I didn't know. Like it was so hard to dream like, oh, what does life look like in 10 years? Because like, I don't have time for that. So truly, I got my first Moxie Life planner. I don't remember what led me to finding Moxie Life, but I remember seeing something about goal setting, and then it was the imperfect sale. And I was really intrigued because of the different areas of life. That was what caught my attention. And it was the imperfect planner sale, so it just was like perfect timing. And in the midst of that, I started to wonder what's most important to me. Answer my family and my health. And I did a lot of soul searching with, what am I called to do in the world? Like, what kind of work do I want to do? And in the midst of all of this, I was going through treatment and I saw ClubMakse pop up. And it was this time where we were going to just think about life intentionally. And between that and the idea of like, what are your dreams? What are your goals? And having a community that I could hook into, because it was still pretty COVID-y and I wasn't going out. I was immunocompromised. So I was really excited about having people, who were talking about dreams and goals and like exciting things, and just having an opportunity to stretch my brain, because I was so afraid during that time that with the chemo and everything, like I didn't have a whole lot of outlet to like think. And so it literally, everything fell into place at the exact perfect moment. I remember I was so excited. The day the group opened up, I was in there, and let me tell you, I responded to every single post that came up. Like, I was in there, and if I had questions, I just loved being connected to people. I loved celebrating everything that people were doing. Like, it was so invigorating to me. And I remember having this moment of, oh, Courtney, that's too much. And I remember sitting on this Zoom call, and I had my little kiddo with me, and all of a sudden Sierra was like, and we just wanted to recognize like Courtney for her contributions to all of these conversations. And I was so struck, because something that had been all in my head about how I needed to tone it down was all of a sudden celebrated. And I feel like that is the epitome of what this community has always been, is that we're constantly trying to encourage one another to be who we are fully. Let your freak flag fly. Like, just be you, and know that there are people who just love that. So I remember I talked with Sierra on the phone, and she invited me to come into the community to basically do what I had done in 1.0, which was talk to people and encourage them. And it was a no-brainer. Like, there was no doubt in my mind that I was going to figure out how to make it work. And it works out perfectly, because I was just being invited to be myself. So I started off as a community mentor supporting the ClubMakse community. And then I started working as the ClubMakse manager. And then recently I was given the position of Director of People and Culture, which is, again, another opportunity for me to do all of the things that I love. It's been so, so fun. And I love our team. Like, I love our team. I never encountered a system that had me as the focus of the planner. I could fit myself into the planner and other formats, but this really, I feel, has helped elevate me in the process. And it's kind of how I feel about MäksēLife in general. Like, it's about us, and the tools are there to support us being the star. So I use the weekly flagship vertical. Sometimes I contemplate going into horizontal, but y'all haven't convinced me yet. Work planner I have redone in a way that has a system, but also fits kind of the niche of what I do. And the reason I ended up going to 2 was because my hyperfocus. And if I put all of my work into my life planner, there will be a lot of work, because I have so many details, and the team knows I have subtasks for subtasks, and it becomes everything. The weekly reflections and weekly actions, like, that's where I am pretty much every week consistently. I do that. And then I also do like a weekly plan. I have a whole process that I go through that brings me such joy. I'll go through weekly reflections and actions. I try to do weekly gratitude and write it in my monthly, so I don't have to do that at the end of the month, because I never remember. I review my values, because I always want to be centered in what's most important. And no shame or judgment to myself, but sometimes other things can take me off track. So I always go back to my values. As someone who has been a people pleaser and is still recovering in so many ways, to have, again, the agency to create the life that I want to live, and to not just wait for it to happen to me, or for it to just follow a path that someone else has told me to, has been absolutely life-changing. I truly feel in the past 5 years that I have become a totally different person. This summer, will be 4 years remission, and 5 years 2026 will be when I get to say I'm cured. But I'm 4 years out, and I have been clean ever since. And it just reminded me that, again, statistics don't determine where my life goes. And so I am dreaming. Like, I'm planning a huge party next year because I get to decide that. And all of these things, when it comes to dreaming, it's not, well, what is the likelihood that that's going to happen? Does that fit into who Courtney is? No, I get to decide it. Living a MäksēLife to me truly means being the fullness of who I am, being whatever Courtney is. And that can change or it cannot change, but it's good just as it is. But it is intentional and it is self-loving.